To give my husband a little. Hey, everybody. Welcome to The Thirsty Professional. This is a place where we grab a bevy. I got my Wonder Woman cup here today. We ditch the BS and we get real about careers, purpose, and fulfillment. I'm your host, Beth Campbell. I'm a survivor of 23 years in corporate chaos, now working on my entrepreneurial empire, my business ownership badassery. I'm also author of the award winning Where the Hell is My Bacon? By the way, two versions out there. There's a yellow and a blue. I prefer that you buy the blue if you're out there, if you would love to. It's a little updated, but also that's my self-published copy. If you are watching live out there, please let us know that you're here in the comments. There is a little bit of a delay, so as soon as we can get you in here, and we'll be checking periodically. Let me know where you're from if I don't know, and also most importantly, what are you drinking today? If you're watching the replay, please give us a hashtag replay. And of course, if you have any questions or feedback, let us know in the comments so we can address it during this live stream or on a future episode. And if you like the show, please consider writing a review or a testimonial or do a post to help spread the word. Of course, like and subscribe on YouTube. It really does help and it's very much appreciated. So today, on this very special day, which we'll talk about in a second, but this very special day, my very special guest is my friend, Stephanie Banach. Stephanie is a yoga therapist. She is a mindfulness and wellness coach and owner of Heart and Wings Yoga. And you can learn more about that at stephaniebanach.com. And we'll talk more about that later. Stephanie specializes in supporting women to help transform their stress and anxiety into calm by creating a holistic, personalized yoga practice that fits into their busy lives. She is herself mom to two middle schoolers and sole owner of her business, so she well understands firsthand the struggle of balancing work, family, and self-care. Stephanie is passionate about spreading the word about the benefits of yoga, especially for people who are curious but not sure how to approach it. We're going to talk about that. She's also a great accountability partner for me. Please welcome Stephanie Banach. Stephanie, welcome to the Thirsty Professional.
Thank
On
you.
my birthday.
On your birthday. Super
Yay!
exciting.
I had to
birthday.
thank you so much. It is my birthday today. I had to decorate. I hope people do not this does not deter from the seriousness of our conversation, but I just had to zhuzh up a little bit. And thank you so much for bringing your tiara. It's a tiara.
Yeah. I'm going to sneak into my girl's room and steal it, but in honor of your birthday, Miss Beth Ann Campbell.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it. So we're going to talk today about many things, but also using yoga to find our calm and move forward. But first of all, what are you drinking? Do you have a drink today?
I do. I have some.
What a pretty cup. Show me that cup. Oh, beautiful.
I have
Ooh.
some Egyptian licorice tea.
Oh, I almost thought you were going to say liquor. I was like, Stephanie.
Well, it is your birthday.
That's true. That's true. I need to put a little something Jack or something in Jack Daniels in here.
That'll be for the evening show.
Too early. I'm not a drinker at all. I think it's one of those things like I had so much bad hangovers when I was a kid, younger, when I was in college and such, that you get to an age and you go, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. I can just give me some chocolate. It'll be less egregious to my body. Well, depending on the quantity, but anyway. Oh, good. Well, good. So Egyptian licorice tea.
It is. Yes.
Fun fact. I hate the taste of licorice. I absolutely cannot stand it, but I have some tea that somebody gave me years ago at my job when I had a cold. It's not even truly tea. There's no tea in it, but I call it a tea, but it's called, I'm going to pronounce it horribly wrong. It's from Pakistan, Joshar Joshanu or something like that. But it's an herbal and it's got licorice in it. And I actually kind of like that. When I back in the day, I would do Jägermeister, which is very licorice flavored. So I can't stand it except for liquor and when I have a cold. So I guess I don't know what it is.
It's interesting because I'm not a huge licorice person, so I was actually really hesitant to try the tea, but it doesn't taste anything like the licorice that we think of, the candy licorice.
Yeah, which is disgusting.
Yes.
If you like black licorice, I don't know. I mean, we could still be friends, but I question. I may have to question some things about people.
My grandma loves the black licorice and then the black jelly beans. Mm.
Yeah, my husband likes this spicy gumdrops, like
Okay.
but the spicy ones, and oh no, no flavor at all. But yeah, no. Anyway, let me check the comments and see who's checking in. Lion Flood, Lion going to be a guest on the show in a few weeks. Lion, great to see you. He says we should start a mug club. No one can join unless they have a cool mug. I like that. Now, of course, I cannot verify this because I can't see anybody's mug. It would have to be on the honor system. But I think that's a great idea. I think today, even though my vintage Wonder Woman cup is pretty cool, I think yours wins, Stephanie, because yours is so pretty. Plus, it's red for fiery. Doris is joining us. Hi, Doris, also going to be a guest on the show. Looking forward to that. Happy birthday, Beth. Looking forward to this birthday sesh. Thank you so much. And then Eileen says happy birthday. And Eileen loves licorice flavor. Eileen, I still love you, and I will not hold that against you. I was really just kidding. There are many things that I don't understand, but that's okay. It is not my place to understand why people like black licorice. Anyway, if anybody is getting a little bit of feedback, we're aware of that. It's just something that we've been unable to. It's very minor and it kind of comes and goes. But if you hear it, I am aware of it. So we're good. If it detracts from your experience, please let us know and maybe we'll try to figure something else. But I think we're good. Okay, so Stephanie, before we dive into our juicy topic of finding calm, I want to learn a little bit more about you and how you got here. So, can we talk a little bit about your journey? Like, how did you get into yoga therapy or even yoga? What did you do before, and what's that evolution?
So I actually started yoga back when I was in high school with a VHS tape. Anyone remember
What?
VHS tapes? Yeah.
Oh man, you're dating yourself now.
Yeah,
Wow.
I would come home from school and I would pop in my VHS tape and practice my yoga. Um,
I can
Back then,
appreciate that, Stephanie, because I used to do exercises to a record, like an LP record,
yep.
that had just the sound of, "Hey, now jump now," and not even no video, so I can appreciate that. Good for you.
So yeah, so I just started with that, and then obviously it's evolved over the times. It kind of ebbed and flowed, but it was really when I was pregnant with my son, who's now 14, that I really just dug even deeper into my yoga practice. Um, and then from there, they practiced all through pregnancy. And then after that, when the kids were, I actually did the baby yoga by DVD this time, not
No, no, no.
VHS.
Wait, is that a thing?
Mhm.
Baby yoga?
Well, you can just do yoga with your babies, and you just like I don't know, you incorporate them, you bring little toys into it. Yeah, it was like pre and postnatal. I had a DVD for that.
I would do that, Stephanie. Like they have the goat yoga, or sometimes I've seen puppy yoga. I would do that with real babies if people wanted to bring their babies and let them crawl around and, take naps on my butt and stuff.
Yeah, it was fun.
Fun.
And then yeah, so I kind of just dabbled, get more deeper into it. And then as far as becoming a yoga teacher, I used to work at a school district. I was a community school coordinator, and so we ran like after school activities and things like that. And we had a yoga class after school. And the teacher of that told me about this program where for yoga teacher training. It was during COVID. They had an online teacher training course, so I dabbled into that, and then just started. Oh, let's do 200. Finished the 200. Oh, I'm gonna just do 300. And then I started teaching classes with the studio. Again, there was virtuals during COVID. And I was one thing just led to another. And then, oh, sure, I'll do yoga therapy. So it
Well, this
just
is like a
really,
lifelong thing. I really honestly, as many times as we've talked, I really didn't realize that you started. What does yoga look like for a teenager using a VHS tape? Are you like in a basement of your mom's house somewhere? Or
no, our front room. So there was nobody. I mean, it was the room that we celebrate Christmas in, but we don't really use
yeah,
outside of it,
everybody had one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just go in there. We had I mean, it was like one of those massive TVs. It was nothing fancy, you know what I mean? Like the thick,
Yeah.
heavy ones.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And put it in and said, I don't even know. I think I still have the same yoga mat from back then. Like it's just this tiny little thin thing. And
Oh,
honestly have no idea who gave me the VHS tape or how that even showed up. Um, but yeah, and just it was
here you
stretchy,
are.
it was nice. And so I liked sports, like not to, I like being athletic. Like I would play like street hockey and things like that. Um, but yoga for me, yoga for me was just like my time just to relax and just let it go. Like I wasn't pushing myself. I wasn't do. It wasn't a workout type yoga class. You know, it was just more
Yeah.
of like. So I really enjoyed it, and that's kind of how I viewed yoga over the years. Is if I want a good workout, I'll go to the gym and work out. Um, but for me, yoga was more of like, okay, like relaxation, calm. And every now and then I want like a faster pace yoga. So I'll do that, but really just it's my chances to breathe.
Yeah, that's
Slow
amazing. So
down.
I think a lot of people have, I know I did, had the perception that that's what yoga is. It's you're in downward dog, but it's calm, slow. There's all kinds of yoga out
Mhm.
there, and it's not just about the movements either. Um, so can we talk a little bit about what are some of the misconceptions that people have about yoga?
Yeah. I say probably the big one is I'm not flexible. People think I
Yeah,
can't be flexible. No.
same. Yeah.
Yep. Um,
Well, can it help me become flexible? Because
it
that's
can. It
as
can.
I get older, that is something that is now, in the past, it was like, "Oh, it just, feels good," but now it's actually something as a woman who's just turning somewhere north of 58. I'm 58 today. So, it's something that I am concerned about, so it can help me become
Mhm.
flexible.
Yep. I've taught yoga classes from 4-year-olds to 104, so anyone can practice. Um, and it really it's finding what works for you. So obviously the practice is going to look different depending on your flexibility level or just where you are during the day. It doesn't have to be a 60-minute intensive workout. It can just be a few stretches in the morning, and then we can get a little bit more into the other parts of yoga. But really, yeah, it can help with flexibility. There's props. I love bringing props into the practice. There's often the stigma or this misconception that props aren't for like true yogis, or if you really
Mm,
had your practice. No, I use props all the time. Sometimes they can help you get a little deeper into it. They can
yeah.
increase the stretch.
Or if you're
One
not
of
quite there, I've used yoga blocks a
Yep.
lot because I'm not quite if I'm first starting out and I'm not quite ready to touch the floor with a flat hand, I need a little bit of a boost, so I love that. And chairs, you had somebody, and I'll, read it later, but we had a comment on one of the promos from somebody who talked about your chair yoga. I think that's another misconception too, is that you have to be on the floor or doing a sun salute standing. You do chair yoga videos.
I do chair yoga. So I said I teach in this. Again, it's for anyone. I'm just saying I teach in the senior center. I taught in for a number of for over a year, and we never had a standing. I mean, everything was chair. But workouts, like I've done little ones, like a 30-minute lunchtime yoga. People at the office. When you're at the
Yeah,
office, you're not always wearing clothes that you can do
great
downward dog
idea.
in.
Yeah.
So, being able to bring that, and then like I want to be able to really like give practice to people that they can weave into their day. And we can't always just get into downward dog. So I really just try to
We
make it
can't.
accessible. Like,
No. Not now, but it is something I strive for. I really love the idea of yoga, because you do incorporate, even if you are, if you're thinking about your classic yoga, you've got breathing, right? Which I think is another thing that people forget, that there's a lot of breathing, right, in yoga, but also, you're doing these movements and you're supporting yourself, and even if you're not, perfect or up to par where you think you should be, any time that you're supporting yourself and pushing yourself up, to get into another position, even on a chair, you're working muscles. So
Mhm.
there's a strength aspect to it too.
And it's good
So
for relaxation. So some of my sessions, I do one-to-one private sessions. So I can really tailor it to their needs, and we'll do some movements in that time span. But then also being able to give them. So I have one lady who's just just trying to more ease at night, going to sleep. Okay, so we did a couple of movements. Legs up the wall. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one. Legs up the wall, like in a reclined
yes,
butterfly.
somebody mentioned that. And Stella, I think maybe was the one who was involved in a conversation. What is that? Is there a name for that? I can't
Legs
remember.
up the wall. I mean, there's more Sanskrit name,
I
but
like it.
legs up the wall. I honestly, so one of my things is really to make yoga accessible to people, whether they've been practicing since high school or not. But just, I really want people to be able to approach yoga. So I don't use Sanskrit. I don't bring in a lot of like what I have my own personal practice is what I do. What you want to do is what you want to do. But I really just want to take away some of that. Like you don't have to practice based on the sun salutation, on the sun or the
Yeah,
moon cycle. You don't have to practice with incense unless you want to. You don't have to bring in all of that stuff that I think sometimes in the West we've adopted into
yeah.
yoga. And just really like make it bare bones so it is accessible to all people.
I
And that's
love that.
flexibility wise, but also like, I it doesn't compete with their faith. It doesn't compete with, I said, their own mobility. And it can really just, again, in the busyness of the day, we don't always have the chance to pull away for 60 minutes. So how can you weave it into the day where it feels good for you?
I love the concept. I wish I would have had you in my life when I was in corporate because I remember my husband once hiring a massage therapist, a chair massage therapist, which I ended up not doing. But never had in my mind did I ever think, well, I'm just sitting here. I could do some chair yoga. If I had had that, I mean, that would have been a game changer for all of those times when I needed calm. Um, let's talk a little bit about the calm, then how you help women. First of all, can you give me like some maybe common situations that your clients find themselves in where they are experiencing chaos? I mean, what are some of the things that you see?
Yeah. Um, and I so for I work with both actually men and women. So I've had more men coming to me lately. Um, so just really, I think just I think sometimes it can be seen as a feminine
Yeah,
I would say pursuit, but I've actually had more men coming to me lately, so it's been nice to be able
awesome.
to meet people wherever they're at. Um, yeah, bringing that calm in is sometimes just the awareness of our feelings, of how we're feeling, and then our emotions. So imagine, somebody asks you something when you're hungry versus when you're just had a nice meal, right? Like
Yeah,
we're gonna give a different answer. Um, but it's being aware of that awareness piece comes to be able to, okay, right. I'll even do it with my own, with my children. They'll ask me something, and I said, right now is not the time, But you have to first check in that awareness piece to be able to know, can I respond to this? Are my buttons being pushed? Am I feeling tense? If our shoulders, sometimes we can start a conversation thinking of it with corporate. You go into a meeting, you're open, and then one thing is said, and then another, and you can just feel like your temperature rising, the tension, and then the yoga comes in and says, okay, just breathe, release it, let it go.
nice.
And then you can find that calmness right then. And then you can check in. Do I really need to say this? How do I say this in a way that it can be heard? Um, and that you can feel good afterwards where you don't have to clean up a mess. How many times have we had to clean up a mess
Yeah,
because
well,
we hit something in the moment?
speaker outer right here. Yes, many times. I love that because it's like you're incorporating, which again, a connection that I would never have made if not for you, bringing that to my attention, that there is a connection between our regulation of our behavior around emotion that can be assisted or helped with by using yoga, which is very self-aware centered. Um, I know that you've also done some work with university. What are university? What's their chaos? Is it what we would normally think of? Like, what do they need calm for? I mean,
So
I know anybody who's been in college
I mean,
knows.
honestly, we all need more calm. So really like my focus is helping people like with their relationships. So whether that's at your office, whether that's with your colleagues, with with your children, with your significant other, or trying to find those connections. So often it's the stress. So I've taught in elementary schools to the students as well as to the teachers, but the university just with everything going on, I don't put politics into anything. I don't put there's none of that. But it's giving them the tools so when they go in to their classroom, sometimes they have a student, whether you're teaching kindergartners or you have college students, sometimes you have one that pushes your buttons. So how can you
Yeah.
prepare yourself for that? How do you de-stress afterwards? If there was chaos in the classroom, how do you de-escalate yourself? How do you stay calm so you can handle the situation, but also not bring it into the next class? How do you just go home, welcome your family without bringing in the stress, or vice versa? How do you show up at the office, in the classroom, wherever? Um, if it was maybe a rough morning at home, maybe the commute was horrible, but it's really just being able
Somebody cut
to
you off.
yeah, and I feel like, some organizations are more open to understanding or having the ability to be able to bring these services and these supports. Um, the awareness of mindfulness, the awareness of just being able to regulate our emotions. Again, and I want to say it's like 90% of doctor
Yeah.
visits are stress related.
Yeah.
Which again, so if you're stressed and you're getting sick, you're calling into work. So you know what I mean? So it's just works all well. You're creating more chaos. Imagine how many people were from your
Oh,
experience
we
with
do.
professions, like yeah.
Oh my god. Well, and again, we'll talk a few minutes because that was one of the common themes in some of the comments where people, that inner voice, and we're just not aware. Once we become aware, it's amazing how much we contribute to the chaos by not regulating, not getting ourselves into calm, reacting versus responding. And these are all things that this can help us with. I love that because I think our inner voice and our inner selves and our, I don't know, maybe our inability to drown that out, or maybe just
Mhm.
unawareness, really does contribute to a lot of what we go on. I know that was for me in corporate. And if I think of what I've been doing now with being aware, with calming myself, being able to not react when that guy cuts me off, which I've talked about ad nauseum. There's this one intersection. It just happened the other day, but yeah, if I had some of this awareness and some of these techniques, how much different would my corporate life have been?
Mhm.
Because although there was a lot coming at me, just like a university student, just like a busy parent, just like, a busy professional or whatever, entrepreneur, we do contribute to that chaos
Mhm.
by not regulating, by not being aware, by not letting go, all these things that this can help with.
And I think that, and I'm just saying like the university, people generally go into it because they are compassionate towards others. What medical staff, people go into these fields because of their compassion for others, but then sometimes they push themselves in the back burner. They bury their emotions. And again, we're not taught, I think now we're slowly seeing it a little bit more, but we're not usually taught about emotions. We're not taught how to regulate our emotions. And I think that's where maybe some of the content has been resonating with men is because I do talk about ways of being able to, because again, we have to be manly men, right? Um, Women have to be nurturers, so we can't, so there's a stigma for both men and women
Yeah.
about accepting their emotions. And, you know, for women are often taught, to be more nurturing. Mothers,
Take
whether
care of
you're,
everybody else first.
yeah, and
You've gotta nurture, make sure everybody else don't take care of yourself. Men are taught, well, don't cry, don't experience those softer emotions,
yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
so
crazy.
we
Well,
bury them down, and eventually they're going to bubble up.
yeah. So you just talked about people, that they get into professions and but they're not really even thinking about themselves. How do you, as a busy mom, you're an entrepreneur, You've got, lots of stuff going out. You're marketing and you're taking care of your website and, doing webinars and stuff. I mean, do you find yourself in those chaotic situations and how do you deal with them?
Um, Practicing yoga doesn't make us exempt. Practicing mindfulness doesn't make us exempt from it, but having the tools to be able to regulate and understand it, I think has helped me. There's still times where I would say I don't get as stressed generally, but there's times where I feel a little bit more anxious about things, but I have the tools to be able to counter it. So I'm like, okay, breathe, step and breathe. And then instead with my children, when they're pushing my buttons, there's times where I'm gonna be like, they're older now, so I can just step away, or I can tell them like, give me 5 minutes. So I think it's being able to understand like what it is that I need, so that I can be there for my kids. And it was funny. It was a couple years ago, but my son says, "Mom, I think you need to go practice some yoga right now." Like, he could tell that I was getting a little he's like, "Do you need a yoga moment, Mom?" And I was like, "Yes, I do, honey. I'll be right back."
Well, at least you weren't somebody where he would go, "Mom, go have a drink, okay?"
Yeah.
Because
But I
well,
think when we practice it ourselves, it teaches our
yeah.
kids. It teaches, if you're a leader in an organization, it teaches your workplace. It's okay to close the door and just breathe. It's okay to take care of yourself. Um, because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we don't set the precedence for them to take care of themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I love so you said something earlier that really resonated with me. You said practicing yoga doesn't make us exempt. And I think that's a very key for anybody listening out here for anything that you are doing around self-awareness. I do a lot of mindset work and I know a lot of people who do a lot of mindset work and working on our self-image and forgiveness and gratitude and all these great things. And then we get to something happens and we go, um, well, I'm supposed to know how to, not do this. But the truth is that's not the case at all. You emotions are emotions, right?
Mhm.
This, like you said, this is a technique, or these are techniques to help us to deal with things, not to prevent them because they're going to happen.
Yeah, and I said I can talk from personal experience. I'm generally, I wanna say more anxious type person, but I'm definitely like, I go and so I know that they work because felt more calm. Like, I am one where my thoughts will go 100 miles an hour. I always wonder the what ifs, should I, overthinking things.
Yeah.
Um, so yoga is my way of being able to like keep myself more regulated. It's just that awareness. So again, it's not saying we don't show up for yoga because we've removed the stress in our life. We show up because we need.
Oh, I love it. Put that in
Yeah,
a mug. We don't show up for yoga. Yoga does not remove the stress. It's because you have the stress that you need
yeah.
yoga.
And I
Wow.
think so often, like, and you were talking about the different types of practices. If you have a go 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 lifestyle, showing up on your yoga mat and having a go 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 yoga practice probably isn't ideal. I mean, everyone's got to do what they have to do. But that's probably when you need the restorative. Maybe you need a lean, you need a slow flow because there's so much busyness, there's so much movement going on. Show up on
I
the
love
mat
that.
and just and usually most of my classes, I will invite whoever's practicing, if you wanna lie in shavasana for the duration of this class, that is as much yoga, and shavasana is the final resting, where you see people
Yeah,
just.
my favorite part. Yeah.
Yes, and I will tell people, if you want to lay in shavasana for the entire class, go for it, you're practicing. And I actually had somebody who did that, and then they messaged me afterwards, and they said, "Thank you, that was just what I needed, it was
That's
perfect."
awesome.
Because we often think that we have to, again, check it off our to-do list that we practiced,
Yeah.
or we feel like we have to be productive, and when we just lay and rest, we feel like we're not doing anything, and really, sometimes that's just what we need.
I love that, Stephanie. And you also said something earlier that I think is another thing that people don't associate with yoga, but you brought up a couple of examples, and that's boundaries. That it's okay to shut the door. It's
Mhm.
okay to tell your kids, I need a few moments.
Yep.
Let me just, I will come back to you, but let me, or, that there's nothing wrong with it and that is a good thing. And that is a healthy thing to set
Yeah.
boundaries, especially when you recognize that you need to,
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of our stress comes from is because we don't take the time to, one, understand our values and our priorities, and then to be able to put boundaries around it. You have to know what you're putting boundaries around. Boundaries aren't just,
Right.
you have to know what
Yeah,
you're putting.
it's not just screw you and, and sometimes we put up the boundaries when we probably shouldn't. We put up walls, but it's just recognizing, right, when we need to for me, it's like it's really just recognizing when I need to take time for myself, whatever that means.
I mean, just think about your marriage with Sean. If you guys never made time for each other, if you were doing your 100 miles an hour thing and he was doing his thing, and there was no, again, a boundary around like a date night or a date, something that just even dinner once a week, whatever it may be. But if you never set a boundary around that, how would your marriage be? I think that's where we get to. We say yes before we even think about things. Does this fit into our schedule? Does this align with what I'm doing? And again, just a no today doesn't mean a no forever. And
Yeah.
sometimes boundaries are yeses. We're making a boundary. As we talk about our accountability, there's a boundary around that. This is what we prioritize. This is a priority. This is something we both value. There's a boundary around it. So we're saying yes to each other. We're saying no to other things. So whenever we think about it, just think of what you're saying yes and no to, and then living in alignment with them.
I love this. I wanna explore this a little bit more, this concept, because this really relates to, how us taking care of ourselves first and how we shouldn't be ashamed. But let me check in with the comments real quick. So Stella says, we were talking about licorice earlier, and she says, "I'm Swedish. We are into licorice salty too." Here's the odd thing, Stella. I think salty licorice I could probably tolerate, that it doesn't sound gross to me at all. Lion says, "Look like I'll have to get me a crown." I said I was coming for it. Uh, Everyone needs a tiara or a crown of some sort. Stella loves the chair yoga videos, and she did put the name in the post out there. If I can pull it up, I'll add it to the comments. But there is a name for that legs up on the wall pose that people are doing. And then Stella says, "I see so many women add self-care in quotes, and it becomes yet another chore to tick off. I tell them stop and find out what you actually desire to do." Yeah, good point. Self-care has to be meaningful. It's not a box to tick off. It is actually something that is very real and very important for all of us. So I want to jump back into a little bit about because you're talking a lot about relationships, and I know that you mentioned earlier that relationships are a lot of our connections or lack thereof, or how we connect or communicate, can be a big factor in our chaos in our lives. And we also know we've touched upon this too, that we take care of everybody else first. Men probably to some extent are not even aware. I think when we talk about self care, we tend to, and we talk about taking care of ourselves first. We tend to project that towards women, because women do we are gender stereotyped into, we have to take care of the kids and we have to take care of the house and we have to, most of us work, and so we have to take everybody care of everybody else and everything else, and we're multitaskers, so our minds work like that. But men do have this the same thing too, right? Men have needs to take care of themselves and we don't. So I want to talk a little bit about that and the importance of taking care of ourselves first. Do you find that in your practice that people are like, "All right, I got a relationship issue," and then you're like, "Wait a minute."
So a couple of thoughts. One is, so I've worked with veterans, firemen. Um, so they're very high stressful jobs. They have a lot of stress. So with the firemen, when you're on the emergency call and your adrenaline's rushing all day, it's hard to turn that off when you go home. And again, they're big, strong men. They're taught these tough roles. Um, but giving them, I don't even know if it's like the right word is permission, but just showing, like how it impacts them. And again, I think I'm saying for women, for men, sometimes again, we don't put ourselves first. But if we can see how this action impacts our children, our significant other, or maybe there are why we don't have that special person. I think, some
Yeah.
people want that meaningful relationship with someone, but because of their stress, because they haven't set boundaries, because of anxiety, because of X, Y, and Z, there's these barriers. Maybe they were hurt in the past and they haven't been able to move past and move forward with it. Um, and again, that's men and women, but it's, I think what we're taught is different for each of us.
Yeah.
But when you're going home and you're feeling stressed, it's hard to not take it out on the ones, because
Yeah.
we the ones that love us the most, ones that we love, are often where we can take our mask off. We can take off everything that we've been holding us together all day. And so again, they often get the brunt of our stress. And sometimes that's the aha moment for people is, oh, I just snapped at my kid. For my
Yeah.
kid being my 5-year-old kid being a 5-year-old kid, I snapped at him or her. Um, or there's that wall, like, you it's hard to connect with your significant other or to be in a meaningful relationship because that tension, the heart is just constantly, you're holding everything together always. Um, and I feel like I'm rambling now, so
No, this
I
is
just, I
like
get on
really
my
good
little
stuff.
soapbox. I
We don't really talk about, I love that you brought up the men thing, because I think we do, because women are just, I think, so ingrained. It is still a societal upbringing that women take care of everything. If there's a vacation, who knew normally, I know in my whole household, it's me, where I'm, get the dog into the daycare and figure out what the hotel is and stuff. And there's kind of a little bit of an assumption still, but we forget that, and it may be different, but it is still all that much more real, that both men and women need to take care of themselves. And maybe that looks different I think, for different people, introverts versus extroverts, even, regardless of your sex. But I love that you're, you know, exploring those, sort of ubiquitous kids, adults, men, women, 104 to 4. It's
Yeah,
yoga's for everybody.
it is, and again, it's more than just what we see on a mat, but it's also being able to is yoga, I say, helps us with our communication. So let's say maybe, if you don't mind me using just using the vacation
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
you know, if maybe the next vacation you're planning and you have a lot going on, maybe you're publishing your new book, you have much, being able to have a conversation with your husband, maybe you take a couple deep breaths beforehand, you present it to him in a way where you're staying calm, and this is our focus, right? So yoga helps us with clarity. So your focus is to see if he can help you with, planning the vacation. So you're not bringing up the fact that you've done X, Y, and Z. You're not targeting this. You're not targeting. You're focused on this. You're explaining it from your heart. You're staying calm. If he says something, if he's pushing your buttons, you can say, "Well, maybe we should return to this later," but it helps us to, again, communicate, staying on task. Because how many times in a conversation where we're feeling pushed, so we push back or we pull in things, just, again, that's another boundary. So even having healthy boundaries. So in conversations, we're not going to talk about things that happened that we already resolved. We're not going to find those sore points and put salt in the wound. Um, so those are boundaries as well. But again, when we prepare ourselves, again, with deep breaths, and when we can feel our tension rising, taking our deep breaths, we can both have winning situations, in conversations and communication. Whether that's in an intimate relationship, whether it's a relationship with your child, whether it's with a colleague.
Yeah, so true. I mean, I'm mesmerized, because I'm like, you should, I mean, I don't know if you work with a lot of, marriage, divorce type of situations, but you should. You really are. You're kind of, like, I feel like, you're a marriage counselor. Like, you're just even, I don't need a marriage counselor, but I'm thinking these are really good. This is really good advice. So Stephanie, can you, I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but do you have any, like, quick techniques? So, I've talked about my road rage situation, where I have an intersection near my home. I travel this road. It's a high speed road. And this just happened to me a few days ago. I just don't think that I'm realizing now, I don't think that the people at the intersection really can see much, because it's kind of curvy and a hill, but I get cut off a lot and have to put, and then I used to find myself, and still do a little bit, like, oh, just, um, I'm in a situation like that, what's something I can do fairly quickly to get myself, down from like I want to stomp
Yes.
on and tailgate this person and then follow them to whatever they're going, the dollar store.
I think just, like, in the car, I mean, just taking those deep breaths, like
Is it really important to d is it important to do I've always heard in through the nose, out through the mouth. Does it really matter? Does it no?
it's funny, I mean, honestly, in those moments, like, if we're having to think about how to breathe, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's more important just
Good
exhale, and
point.
sometimes inhale,
Good point.
exhale, sometimes, if your hands are, both tightly gripped on the steering wheel, just you can just almost feel, like, the tension,
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
and then just slowly releasing, letting go again, not if you have to hold on to a steering wheel, but just if
Yeah.
you can physically imagine just tensing all of your muscles, your hands, like, your arms, saying your buttocks, I mean, just tense everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you slowly exhale and you just release it, you let it go,
Oh, I feel better already.
and you
I'm
can do
seriously
this
gonna do that next time because this happens to me all the time, so
clenching the toes, I mean, just imagine, like, pinching your toes together, you
yeah.
curl them up and then you just release them, and sometimes it's in traffic, sometimes when you have to when you're standing in line or somebody, is just being a little rude to you on the phone and you wanna say something.
Mhm.
And that's something, just reminding yourself, like, an affirmation and help it, like, little mindset work. But those thoughts that we tell ourselves, I think in your post you mentioned, "Oh, this guy, he just hates women, blah, blah, blah," right?
Yeah.
I'm
Making up stories, yeah.
So if you just
Mhm.
go, "Okay, he's probably in a rush," or "I have time to get where I'm going," just something that kind of calms your mind down as well, because we can jump to conclusions, so
Yeah.
what
He
do I
hates
know to be
women,
true? Yep,
he doesn't like Subarus, he's just being a jerk, but yeah, none of it's true. It's literally like some old guy who probably literally probably could not see me because I can see him, but he's, looking way up and yeah, exactly. I love this because this is stuff that you even mentioned phone calls because I'll get phone calls. I got one the other day from a repair person and it was like last minute call to say, "Hey, this guy's coming to fix your washer." She said something like, "I assume that you don't have any standing water in your machine." And I was like, "I do because that's the problem." And it was kind of last minute. And I was in my head, I was like, "Why the F did you not say something a week ago when he was out here the first time that I should, now it's been sitting in there and now I have to go last minute." But this would have been a great opportunity for me to just and I love this idea of for making yourself tense up to be aware of that tension and then be aware and being able to versus just to let the tension go because I that makes just so much sense to me like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
almost like a full body.
yeah.
Great advice.
And you can practice it, you can teach it to your husband, you can teach it to kids around, it's for anybody, that really wants to just again, you can sense it. You can there's that body mind connection too. Like so often we're not even aware that we're
Yeah.
holding tension. You can go all day because it becomes our default. It becomes our default is holding that tension. And then you go to lay down at night and you can't sleep, you can't get comfortable, your jaw hurts, you're just again the muscles are sore. It's because you've been holding it all day. So
Yeah, I
even
know
just
very well how that goes. I'm a jaw clencher, and I'm currently on my 2nd of 4 crowns because my teeth where I had cavities filled when I was a kid, the tension, I'm just not aware of it. So
yeah.
and I clench during the day, and it's now cracking my teeth from that all that tension.
Ooh,
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize. I would think this is
yeah.
if you take anything away from this beyond that there are these great techniques to use is the awareness of when we are in these situations, whether it's just internal and we just don't, we're tense working on stuff or we're communicating with somebody or getting triggered. It's that awareness because
Mhm.
it's real. I have the dental bills to prove it.
And I think when we're aware of, there's no shame, there's no guilt in being in the awareness. But when we are aware of it, we can go into situations. So if you know that going to this meeting, always your tension rises, right? You can prepare
Mhm.
yourself. If you know that on that drive where that intersection is there, you can already prepare yourself. I mean, obviously things come up in the day that we unprepared for. Um, but the more that we're aware to make intentional awareness of it, the more we can again prepare ourselves. So when it does happen, we're like, yeah, I was expecting it here. I'm ready for it.
Yeah. I
Um,
love that. Man, this is like amazing. You need to put a checklist together of all these things that are like, be aware of your tension, pre-anticipate when things are going to happen. Because honestly, we just don't think about this stuff.
yeah.
We just go along with our day, and it's there's reasons for it. We're busy people, but um,
Sometimes even 5 minutes to slow down and check in. Again, setting those
yeah,
boundaries. We can save how much stress in the future and how much of our time if we just spend 5 minutes to really check in and figure out where I wanna have those boundaries versus saying yes to everything and then feeling
yeah.
overwhelmed. Same thing with situations. If we just have these tools, we can avoid hitting send on an email that goes to everybody that we then have to clean up.
That's what I learned a long time ago. Don't send it, put it away, draft it, and then go back to it later. And if you still feel after a day, but oh yeah, middle of the night stuff,
Yep.
whew. Well, Stephanie, I want to read a few some feedback from other folks. So we had actually quite a bit of great feedback on some of the promotion we did for this show. So from Doris, she says she was when I asked the question, what is your favorite way to work on yourself? And she says lately my favorite way to work on myself has been to catch and make fun of my inner hijacker. She means her inner critic. And I think that's really important. I mean, she's kind of being tongue in cheek here, but we've talked a lot about what that inner critic does to us. So again, self-awareness. And do you have you named your inner critic, Stephanie?
No, I guess I really, no. I mean,
That's good. That's good. That means that she's probably not as egregious as maybe some of ours are. I did name mine, but I have an appreciation for my inner self now because I realize it's a great, and you mentioned this earlier, when we start having that inner critic kick in, I feel like it's time for us to pay attention, even though it's annoying, and of course, sometimes we feel bad, we're making ourselves feel bad, but I think it's also a signal of when we need to pay attention, like, is this a point where
mhm.
I need to just stop, assess, and, maybe not be so hard on myself or take a breath and, do some work.
I would say too, you probably give the best advice to your dearest friends. I know you give me amazing advice, but then to ourselves,
Oh, yeah.
so I try to sometimes check in. What would I tell my friend if this was happening to my friend? What would I tell her? And that tends to help. If we treat
Yeah.
our inner critic like our best friend, what would we say? What advice would we give if we see our friend doing what we're doing, going down that road? We're like, and then start
Oh,
doing
yeah.
that to ourselves, and then take our own best advice.
Yeah, absolutely. I also asked a question about in one of the posts about what is your chaos? What is the reader's chaos? And Eileen said, my mental tornado is in getting myself and my business organized. Getting myself to focus on one thing at a time will help. I haven't tried yoga, but perhaps it could help. And meditation. I always hear how it helps, but I never do it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes too we think of meditation again, it's you're removed from everything. You're sitting in a serene field and you're just, every kumbaya, everything is just wonderful. And sometimes it's just a body scan. Sometimes it's just
Yeah.
a check in. Sometimes it's a 5 minutes, a couple of deep breaths. Um, I mean, if there's time for something longer, great. However, don't let that time length. If you can't devote 30 minutes to a meditation, 5 minutes. Even gratitude, that spending a couple minutes writing on your gratitude or
Yeah.
realizing that you're holding that tension, can be again just do wonders just to release it throughout the day. So it's not like you
Mm.
need, if you don't have 60 minutes at the end of the day to
Yeah.
decompress.
I agree. In fact, I've talked a lot about my journey with gratitude and how every night I would go and I would spend, probably 20 minutes journaling and writing about gratitude. And I realized that I was so phoning it in. And then what I recognized is when during the day, when I would just try to be more aware and recognize those little moments to be grateful for, I felt like they were so much more impactful. Right. And we
Mhm.
don't always, like you said, we don't always have time. And then another thing I would say too, especially to Eileen, because I know Eileen's a puzzler, meditation for me doesn't have to be I'm sitting in a chair with my, my hands up, and I'm, listening to my breathing. I think anytime that you're doing something that is just where you are letting your mind not need to be focused or need to be rambling about things. So for me, things like doing a jigsaw puzzle, which I love, I'm just focused on patterns and colors and texture. Nothing else is in my head, and I'm not, bombarded with things, and if they do come in, it's easy to let them go. So, those are great things too. It doesn't or doing some yoga where
Well,
you're just focused on the movements and the breathing.
for me, it was washing dishes. When my kids, I would get
Right.
them set up with something, and I would wash the dishes, and unless there was an emergency, that was my time. I look out the window, I'd wash the dishes. There
Amazing.
was some productivity, but I didn't have to think about actually washing the dishes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I
Um,
get you.
and it was just my time to just and to breathe and
Yeah. So find your zen and incorporate some of these techniques. We're going to be wrapping up in a little bit. So if you have any final words, anybody out there, or questions, please get them in because there is a little bit of a delay. I do want to go to. We've got a few comments that have come in here. Stella says, "This is a very good way of handling the inner critic, Stephanie. I don't have a name. I never say mean things to myself anymore, ever." Yeah, me neither. I used to tell my, pardon my French, but I used to tell my inner voice to shut the fuck up all the time. But now I recognize that she is bringing my past and my paradigms and my beliefs from my, life into my world, and she's just trying to protect me. So, and I do feel like when my inner critic hits in, it's also me not there's a little element of non-acceptance or non-conditional love, so I try to reiterate and underscore that, that I appreciate that she is just trying to protect me, but
I think it's, looking at it through the like an observer's lens. What do you know to be true? What are the facts? We again going back to the stories, we can tell ourselves so many stories about things,
Mhm.
but what is really true? If we look at it, the situation, whatever we're judging ourselves for, through that observer's lens, it takes away some of our, that super connection to it. We're not denying the emotions, but we can better understand what's going on and then handle it. I want to say more logic, with reason versus 'cause how many times we make a decision based on just our emotions, how we're feeling,
All the time.
versus what we know to be true.
Yeah. And that's okay as long as it is a, I don't like the word strategic, but as long as we've put thought into it, right? It's not
Yeah.
just a knee-jerk reaction, as we say.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Stella says she's a puzzler too. Stella, just you and Stephanie are both surprising me daily with all the things that I didn't know about you. I love puzzling. I think it's so much. It's just so zen for me. And Stella also says that doing laundry is very calming and focusing inducing for her. Well, good for you. I hate doing the dishes, but you got to find your thing, right? It's, gardening I like. And so that's another kind of grounding thing for me.
But walking
Um,
meditations are wonderful. Go for a walk and just notice
yeah,
what's there opposed to thinking of your to-do list.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's, a good point too, is I guess I do feel a little bit of that zen when I walk my dog too. I'm kind of not really thinking about anything. So much great advice today. Stephanie, before we wrap up, I want you to tell us do you have any promotions, or what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? And I know I've got a couple of links I'll throw up here, but what do you want our audience to know?
Um, so I just actually created a new video, healthy mindset for meaningful relationships. So there's a link that I think you're going to post that people can sign up for that. That's it on my website. Help my first and last name, stephaniebanach.com. You can meet there or on Instagram, my YouTube channel. They're all the same, pretty much the same links or same names. So yeah, I would love to connect with you. If anything from here spoke to you, feel free to put it in the comments and/or just reach out to me. There's a contact form right on my website, or you can send me an email. So again, I just look forward to connecting. And then again, you can get the emails, and I'll don't send them out maybe weekly. Just to give you some more tips. And I'm happy to meet with anyone if they are interested in learning more about one-to-one sessions. just really they're all personalized to meet you where you're at, whether you want to meet weekly, bi-weekly, um, just to feel the more calm and stronger, connection with first with yourself and then with others.
I love it. Anybody, if you know anybody or you yourself would like to work with Stephanie, please send them her way. She is so amazing. She's so broad and deep and just I love Stephanie's posts. So she's very active now on Instagram. Doesn't I think not doing a whole lot on LinkedIn, which I think is good. Sometimes I don't want to be doing anything on LinkedIn. But Instagram is probably the best place. You also have a YouTube channel, but yeah, send folks your way. She's just got such a. I mean, even today you're surprising me. We have a weekly call, and we've talked about a lot of this stuff until still today. It's just I'm never ceases to amaze me all of the great information that you have and the training that you have, and also just your strong but nurturing personality, which I think is so perfect and I just love. So thank you so much for
Oh,
being my guest on my birthday guest and bringing your tiara. Had such a great time. We'll put all of Stephanie's information into um, the comments in LinkedIn, and I'll try to remember to do them in YouTube too. I know I sometimes I forget, but I'll put it all there too. So if you need to get in touch with her, but stephaniebanach.com is probably the quickest way to get
yeah.
with her. Thank you again, Stephanie, for all of the support and being my great accountability partner and giving us such great information.
And thanks for having me be your guest on your birthday. So happy birthday.
Oh, I'm so excited.
And
Thank you so much. So next week, February 14th, Valentine's Day, my very special guest will be Trisha Lewis. I know some of you know Trisha. I can't think of a better follow-up to my birthdays, as I get a year older than to talk with this. She's a powerhouse. She is kicking ass well into her 60s, and I know I think she would be okay with me saying that. Trisha is author of The Mystery of the Squash Self, and she has a passion for communication. She's also podcaster, TEDx speaker, communication and confidence coach, and obsessed with climbing. Like, those rock walls that you see in gyms or churches, even they're putting rock walls in, those scary high rock walls where you've got to, figure your way and they're like you're on a safety rope. Yes, she does that. Did I mention she's in her 60s? So I'm really looking forward to having Trisha on next week. If you're watching on LinkedIn, please connect if you're not already and go to Instagram for Stephanie. Again, we'll put her links in the comments. If you're on YouTube, please look up Stephanie and also this podcast and our live, and please like and subscribe. Very much appreciated. If you have any additional questions that we didn't get to, and I'm just going to make sure that there aren't any in here. We used to reach time. Sorry, just wanted to check and see if there were any last minutes coming in. But if you do have any questions or feedback, leave them in the comments or send us a private message. I know Stephanie's on Facebook Messenger as well. And then congratulate yourself for getting real about your career, your purpose, and your fulfillment. Stephanie, Miss Hattie Arbuckle, and our tiaras and I'll bid you a fond farewell and take it easy. Thanks for joining. Thanks.
thank you,
Cheers.
Beth.